How about that? Did that help? I have some greens across the bottom now, so you should be able to hear me. Yay! Okay, I fixed it. I fixed it, yay! Round to your tank, what are you doing here? I guess we all have the same math test, so it's good. You can't hear Iris? Try turn up your volume because it was my fault. My mic wasn't working. So I will turn up my volume too. You can't what? Hear or see? Hear or see? Somebody needs to remind me to update the blog entry too, because if you try to come in from there, you're not going to get here now. Old man computer is my husband, so don't freak out. Okay, he's not some creep who really likes math. He's just... All right, well, you're lucky that you're here seeing this because at the end of the stream, I'm actually going to show you some of the questions on the test. So we're going to do a little bit of practice first, and then I will show you what the test looks like because you decided to take the extra step and do some practice with me tonight. All right, so here's what we're doing today. The review sheets that I put on the blog, that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. So I'll make sure I'm going to put on some light here, if I can find the light switch. So I'm going to make sure that we go through at least a couple questions on the review sheet. And then what we'll do is if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat below, and I have them right beside me so I can see. How long is this going to be? 15 minutes? Shouldn't be that long. And if you have to go, that's fine because the replay will be on the blog so you can see me go through all the questions later, okay? So here we go. I'm going to turn the camera, so it's going to be a little bumpy, sorry, and it's going to be upside down, but I'll fix it really quickly, okay? And I gotta flip you. Oh no, it's backwards. Gotta flip it. And now I gotta flip my camera. It should be backwards for you, so I have to flip it around. It's not backwards for you, it's just backwards for me? Oh, it's not backwards? Great. Then we can work with that. Okay, so the first sheet I'm looking at is I'm looking at how to calculate different percentage from a full number, okay? So that's sheet number 1, okay, that we're looking at. And this is the one that people had the most problems with, okay? So what we're going to do is we'll do the first one together, okay? I may pull out a scrap of paper so that we can see how I made my percentages, okay? So I'm going to back this up a little bit so we have a little more room. All right. Okay. So is everybody still there? Are you still with me? All right. So I'm going to do question number 1 first. So we have the number 24, okay? And we need to use decomposition to find 14%. Okay, we're looking for 14% here. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do without a calculator, okay, is we're going to find out what 10% is. Okay, and we've done this before. We've broken down numbers in order to in order to figure out the percentage. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find 10%. 10% is like saying divide by 10. Okay? It's one of the easiest things to find out. So what we have is a whole number. Every whole number has this imaginary decimal behind it. Okay? That imaginary decimal is in every whole number. And then behind it would be an infinity number of zeros. So we are going to take this decimal, we're going to add it in. If you've ever noticed on a calculator, there's always that decimal at the end. That's the same idea. So we're going to take this decimal, and according to the number of zeros, that tells me it looks like a ball. It's going to tell me how many times to bounce it. So I'm going to take this decimal and bounce it once to divide by 10, because there's one ball, 1 0. Which means if I divide 24 by 10 for 10%, I'm going to get a number that looks like this, 2.4. 2.4. That's the first step. So then on my paper, I'm going to put 2.4. When I want to find 1% of something, it's like saying 1% is like saying divide by 100, because we're looking for a ratio out of 100. Okay? So LJ Gaming, can you divide by 14, or do you have to divide by 10? You can divide by 14, but you can't really do it in your head very easily. Okay? I know it's blurry. I'll focus it again. So you can divide by 14, but it's going to be a little tricky to do that. So if you do it this way, you don't need to use a calculator. You can do it in your head. So I have my 10%, which is 2.4. Now I need to find my 1%, which is the same as saying divide by 100. There's two balls here, which means I'm going to take my 24 with my imaginary decimal, right? And I'm going to bounce it twice. So I'm going to bounce it 1 and 2, which means 1% is going to be 0. Because I'm going to bounce it 1, 2, 0.24, because this is my new home for the decimal, which means 1% is going to be 0.24. Okay? Now, I have all the information I need now to figure out 14%. Okay, so I'm going to do it just sort of like a ratio. So I need a 10%, and I need a 1%, and I need another 1%, another 1%, and another 1%. And that's going to equal 14%. Okay? What I do to one side, I need to do to the other. So I'm going to have the 10%, which is, the value is actually 2.4. And then for the 1%, I'm going to add the 0.24. I need another 0.24. I need another 0.24. And then I need a fourth 0.24. Because 4 ones right here is 4% and 10%, which gives me 14%. Okay? And so now I'm going to add these all up. In order to add these up, I'm going to add another 0. It's just a placeholder. So 4, 8, 12, 16. And then I'm going to carry the 1. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. I'm going to carry the 1. I'm going to line up all my decimals, and then I'm going to have a 3. So 14% actually equals 3.36, okay? So this is called decomposition. This is when, we put decomposition. This is when we break up a number into smaller numbers so that we can do it in our head. Okay? So let's try another one. Let's try, somebody pick a number between 1 and 10. Oh, wait. Pick a number between 1 and 10. 4, perfect. So now we're trying to find 12% of 26, okay? So we want 12% of 26, okay? So yes, I think it was Landon, and he's right. You could just divide 12 by 26. You'll get a decimal, and then you multiply that by 100. That's fine. But if you can't use a calculator, and in some pages of the EQAO, you can't use the calculator, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to use decomposition again, okay? Sorry, Ben. you're going to have to use decomposition again. So what you're going to do is, again, we want to find what 10% and what 1% is. So the first step is we find 10% of 26. Okay? And so this is like saying 26.00000000. Okay? So in order to find that 10%, there's one ball, so we're going to bounce it once right here. So 10% is actually 2.6. Okay? You with me so far? Great. 1% is just 1%. It's like saying divide by 100, which is bouncing the ball two places, 1, 2. So if I have 26.0 and I bounce the ball two places, I'm going to have a new one here and a 0. So 1% actually equals 0.26. Okay? So now that we have all the elements, we have all the building blocks of 12%, we need to put it together. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to do one column, and I know I need 10%, I need 1%, and I need another 1%. And that equals 12%. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to take the values now. So 10% of 26 was 2.6. I'm going to add a 0 because it's going to help me with my addition. 1% is 0.26. 1% is 0.26. I'm going to add them up because that's what I did here. And so I have 12, 6, 8, 10, 11, and then 3. After I regrouped and carried the 1. So now I have 10, 11, 12, the values. So 12% equals 3.12. Okay? Because we had to break down what was 12, and then we added those values, because what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Okay? Are you with me? Do you understand? Do we need to do another one on this page, or can I move on? Okay? This is called decomposition. When we take, it's just like when we learn the 50% and the 10%, and if I wanted to know 60, then I would just add those two together, like in our lessons. Okay? So I'm seeing a lot of word goods. So I'm going to move on to another page. So I don't think, do you have any word problems in your, let me check your test. I will move on. Thank you. Thank you, Khadija. You do have a couple of word problems. This one's really easy. This one's just writing ratios. So at a summer camp, the ratio of boys to girls was 10 to 1. If there were 30 boys, how many girls were there? So this is an equivalent ratio problem. So if the ratio is 10 to 1, and we can write it as a fraction, and then there were 30 boys, what I'm trying to figure out, what I'm trying to figure out is how many girls there were. So what did I do to one side to get 30? Nope, there's not going to be any multiple choice, and there shouldn't be any decimals on your test either. So these review questions are actually a little harder than your test should be, and we did that on purpose, because if you can do the harder questions, the easy ones will be a piece of cake. So yeah, that's right, Helena. So we multiply 10 by 3, and what we do to the top, or what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. So I'm going to multiply that by 3, which will give me 3. So the equivalent ratio of 10 to 1 is 30 to 3. Okay? So let's pick number, I think Ben picked number, what did you pick last time? 8? Let me see. I can check. Ben picked 6, so we'll do number 6 on this one. So if you look at this one's going to be a little more difficult. A small school has 78 students. Okay, so I'm on this one right here. If 24 of the students are boys, what is the ratio of girls to boys? So this is going to be a multi-step problem. It's not a difficult multi-step problem, but it's a good one. So what we're going to do is we're going to have 78 is the total. Okay, and what we need to do is figure out, we're going to do a ratio of girls to boys. So we have what we call a variable. So I'm just going to put a square and then the ratio sign to 24. It could be that would be a part to whole ratio, Mohammed. That's good thinking. But what we want is we want a part to part ratio now because the total is 78. And now we know we have 24 boys. So we want a part to part ratio of girls to boys. Okay? Yeah, I know, that's what I said. Didn't I say Mo? I don't know. Anyways, so I got my math on. So if I have 78 and I know that 24 are boys, what I need to do is I need to do some subtraction. Why am I doing subtraction? Well, because if I know how many boys are in the total, then if I take it away from the total, I'll get a part-to-part ratio of what's left over. So if I do the subtraction, I get 54, which means my answer is going to be 54 to 24 boys to girls, or girls to boys, sorry, because it's girls to boys. And so then what's going to happen is if I add these two together, I'm going to get a total of 78 because it's asking me to do a part-to-part ratio. If it wanted me to do a part-to-whole ratio, then one of my numbers would be 78. Okay? So you got to read the question. It says, what is the ratio of girls to boys? Not the ratio of boys to students. It would be girls to boys. So it'd be 54 to 24, which sounds like a grade school. All right, do we need to do one more word problem? Or are we good on the word problems? The trick to a really good word problem is you just have to read it really well. Okay, I'm gonna move on. If you want to do one more, Abby. All right, one more. One more, let's do 8. Caleb deleted 20 songs from his MP3 player. That's like an old iPod. Okay, so I'm on number 8 now. Let's move it down. Okay, I'm on number 8 now. Caleb, I know, but Abby wants another one, so I'm going to do one more. Caleb deleted 20 songs from his MP3 player. If the ratio of songs he deleted to songs he kept was 10 to 3, how many songs did he originally have on his MP3 player? Okay, I'm doing one more because I want to do this one. This one sounds fun. So he has 20 songs to start. If the ratio of songs he deleted to songs he kept was 10 to 3, how many songs did he originally have on his MP3 player? So this is another incomplete one where we have 20 to something equals 10 to 3. So we're trying to simplify and find the missing variable here, okay? So let's look, we have 10 to 3. What did I do to 10 to turn it into 20? Okay, so I could either go and divide 20 by 10 and that's going to give me the answer, or I can just think, I multiplied by 2. It's pretty easy. You're right, Ben. And so what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So if 10 times 2 is 20, 3 times 2 is going to be 6. Now, how am I going to find the total? Well, this is a part-to-part ratio, right? So now I'm going to songs kept 10, 3. Okay, so we're going to have to go bigger now because now I have this is 26 songs, okay? We're going to have to add, you're right. So then we add them. Yeah, we do add, Mo. So what's the answer going to be? You got it, 26. Okay? So when you're doing a word problem, just remember UPS, okay? Because what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to find the important information and then answer the question that way. I'll show you what our word problems look like for the test tomorrow, though. So let's go on. So this is simplifying. We're simplifying some ratios here. Okay? So if we look at the example, it's not very dark here. We took a 48 to 18 and we turned it into its lowest form. Okay, you'll know it's its lowest form because 8 and 3 don't have any factors in common. So let's look at number 1 here. This one should be pretty easy. We have 23 and 36. So what you need to think of is you need to think of factors that will go into both 27 and 36. So off the top of my head, I know that I think 3 will go into 27 and 36 because I know 3 times 9 is 27, and I know that 3 times 12 is 36. So my next ratio is going to be 9 to 12. Is this the lowest form? It's not the lowest form because 3 also goes into 9 and 12. So if I divide this by 3 again and divide this by 3 again, I'm going to get something that looks like this, 3 to 4. Are there any factors that 3 and 4 have in common? I don't think so, because 3 is not an even number and 4 is. So this is going to be my lowest form. This is going to be the most simple form that we can have, okay? So 27 to 36, if you simplify it, is actually 3 to 4. Okay, let's look at number 7. No, that's too easy. Let's look at number 10, right here. So first thing off the bat, what I have here is we have to go to its lowest form. So 42 and 30. The first thing I think of is I think of when I was classifying numbers. These are 2 even numbers. If they're 2 even numbers, then I know I can divide them by 2. It might not give me my lowest form, but it's going to give me a good start. So what I'm going to do is this is 21 and this is 15. Are there 2 factors that go into 21 and 15? There are, because 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. So 7 times 3 is 21, and 5 times 3 is 21. The common factor being 3. So then I know that I can go to 7 to 5, because they're prime numbers. They're not going to reduce anymore. So this is the simplest form. Okay, prime numbers can only be divided by 1 in itself. So I know that I'm not going to be able to break it down anymore. Okay, sometimes you have to use things from the last lesson. Let's do one more. Let's do 6. Let's do 130. Let's do 130. So we're going to do number 8. Okay, just so you can see what we're doing. What are 2 numbers that go into 130? I automatically think of the tens columns because they both end in 0. So you're right, Abby. So 10. So I know that we got 10 times 10 is 100, and 3 times 10 is 30. Can we break these down anymore? 3 is a prime number, so no. 10 we could break down, but what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So this is going to be our simplest form. You also know it's a simple form if it's an even number and an odd number. Usually, especially if it's under 10, usually they don't have any factors in common. So if it's an even and an odd under 10, you can probably leave it. That's going to be its simplest form. Okay? So you need to practice your factors a little bit. You need to go over your multiplication charts, okay? Because I don't have one hanging up. Next. All right, this is the one that some people were having some troubles with. Now, you don't need to panic on these because it's just benchmarks, okay? See how these all end in 0? You're not going to have to do anything like the first page where you had to find 12%. That was just to help you practice decomposition. So 50% we know is half. So you're just going to cut it in half, and that's 25. Can you use a calculator on the test? No, you don't need to. I'll show you the test after. Super easy. So let's do something like, that's not as obvious. Let's do 60% of 70, okay? Yes, you will have to finish the test in class, but like I said, it's pretty easy. So now if I have 60% of 70, we can use decomposition again. The easiest thing to think of is 50% because we know that that is 1/2. Okay, so all I have to do is divide that by 2 to get 50%. Okay, no, you don't have to finish these sheets. These are just for helping you. So I know that half of 70 is going to be 35. So 50% is 35. I also know how to get 10%. If I take 70 and I have my imaginary decimal and I bounce it once for the 1 0, I know that 10% is 7. So if I want 60%, I'm going to add, and what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So now I'm going to add 35 to 7, which is going to give me 42. Therefore, 60% is 42. Okay, so when you are trying to figure out percentage, you want to use these tricks. You want to think about what's 50%. You want to think about what's 10%. If you needed to figure out 40%, you're not going to add, you're going to take away that 10. So then what you do to one side, you do to the other. Okay, so should we do it? All right, so I'm going to figure out what 50% is, which is by cutting it in half. So that's 40. I'm going to figure out what 10% is by bouncing the decimal. So that is 8. Now, if I want to figure out what 40% of something is, I'm not going to add them together. I'm going to take them away. Because 50 take away 10 is 40. 40 take away 8 is 32. Therefore, 40% of 80 is 32. Do we need to do another one? When you're trying to find a benchmark, so a percentage that ends in 0, always find 50% first, then find 10%. And then you can figure it out, okay? So if you had to do 80, you would find out the 50% and the 10%, and then you can just add 50%, 10%, 10%, 10%, okay? You're just going to use decomposition again, okay? Let's move on. Now, you're going to convert a percent into a fraction. A fraction is just a fancy ratio. Remember, there's 3 ways to write a ratio, right? You can use of, you can use the ratio sign, which is the 2 dots, or you can use a fraction. So if I have 16%, this is the same as saying 16 over 100. There you go, first step done. Okay, have fun going out for dinner or going for dinner. Why did I take away on 40? That's a good question. Let's go back to that sheet for a second. Because I had 50% and I knew what 10% was. And in order to make 40, I don't add, I have to take it away. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I took it away, I took it away. Okay? Well, we can do another one then. Let's do 30% because that's one that's a little tricky. So again, I'm going to find, there's 2 ways to do this. I can just find 10% and then add it 3 times because 10 times 3 is 30. Or I can find 50% and 10% and then take away 2 10%. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to find 10% because I don't want to make more work for myself. So I'm going to take my imaginary decimal, and because 10 only has 1 0, I'm going to bounce it once. And so 10% of 30 is 3. If I want to find 30%, I'm going to have to add it 3 times because 10, 20, 30%. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. 3, 6, 9. 30% is 9. Okay? That's why I took it away, because I want to make sure that whatever the answer I'm looking for is, my percentages equal up. And then I want the values to equal up, okay? So, percentage. A percentage is a fancy fraction over 100. That's it. 16% is actually 16 over 100. We can simplify this, though, because these are even numbers. So we can go 8 to 25 because 16 divided by 2, 100 divided by 2, oops, 16 divided by 4, sorry. By 4, oops, 4 over 25. I forgot what I was doing there. So 4 over 25. Can I reduce this anymore? No. So this is my simplified fraction. Okay, let's look at 36. We got 36 over 100 automatically. Okay, if you put it over 100, you're going to get part marks because this is correct. So let's try and get it a little smaller. So these are both even numbers, so I can divide by 2. And then that's going to give me 13 over 50. And 13 is a prime number, so I have to stop. This is the lowest it's going to be. 13 over 50. Okay? So step 1, you're going to take this, you're going to get rid of this sign and put it over 100, because that's the same thing. And then if you can simplify it, you're going to simplify it. If it's an even number, you should at least divide it by 2 so that you can get there. Okay? And then this one, you know how to do it. You count the squares. It's always 100. You count the squares, you put your percentage sign, right? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. So percent. Okay? Same thing. You're just going to count the squares. Okay, you have 2 questions like this on your test, so that's why I gave it. So here's what your test looks like. I'm going to back you up a bit so you can see more of it. All right. Okay, so here's your test for tomorrow. First, you have the skill section, and then you're going to have concept section, okay? The numbers don't add up because I took some pages out, okay? First thing is you're going to tell me what a part-to-part ratio is, okay? Then you're going to write me a part-to-whole ratio, and then you're going to tell me what 4 to 7 tells you what that ratio means. Sorry if it's still blurry. Let me go closer. How's that? Okay? And then you're going to give me 3 equivalent ratios to 5 to 15. You're going to tell me what percentage of the grid. Is it blurry? Abby, get glasses. It's fine. And then you're going to count the squares and tell me what the percentage is. This is 100 squares, okay? So it's easy. Mo, put your glasses on. How's that? I'm gonna do this. Okay? So then what you gotta do is you gotta add up the squares. Okay? Let's look at the next page. Okay? You're gonna write these fractions into percentages. You're gonna write a fraction for the percentage below, which are easy, they're benchmarks. You're gonna do 50% of 200, 75% of 80, just like what we just did. Well, I'm not gonna make it that easy on you. You have some word problems, okay? The ratio word problem. You have another word problem, okay? And then you have another word problem where you have to explain. And then, again, you're going to do another 75% of 47. This one's going to be a little tricky, but if you use decomposition, you'll be fine. Same thing with this, and then you're going to tell me what 50 is. Okay? And then you're going to choose a different percentage for each statement. Okay? It's a thinking question. You're not dead. You're going to be fine. Okay? And then that's it. It's 2 pages front and back. Okay? I don't know what's sad that you can't go to McDonald's. Or what's sad? Oh, you're talking about basketball. Probably gym. I wasn't there. All right, so that's it for the review. It's not going to be as difficult as your review questions, but it's still going to take you a bit of time, okay? If you'd like, you can bring something quiet to do afterwards. You can bring some earphones, and then you can play some Prodigy. But if you have any questions, you can ask me in the morning, and this replay, I'm going to upload it to the blog before, here, let's do this. We're going to upload it to the blog before I go home tonight. And then if you have any questions, you can give them to me in the morning. Our test will be periods 4 and 5. You have a question. What's your question, Abby? Oh, hi. It's my face. Any other questions before I end for tonight? Because I need to go home. Mo is just giving me a lot of foots. Can we play games after? Yes, you can play games after. Only because it was a test and it's stressful. But you need earphones? You need earphones. Yes, after you finish. Yes, you can. Okay, Helena, you can ask me tomorrow. TikTok's not a game, no. You know the answer to that. TikTok is social media, no. Mo, stop putting feet in there. No, for real. Okay, so you just went to the whole leg. No, you can't skip French. When is French? No, you can't skip French. It's period 6. All right? So, if you have any questions, you can ask me in the morning. Okay? Why not what? Oh, okay. Well, that's annoying. So, who invited Mo? Who invited him? Okay, I'm shutting it down now. So, I will see you in the morning. I will have a big, what do you mean why? Because we're done the review. And you need to go and study. I will do a quick review for the science on Wednesday night. And if you find this helpful, then I'll make sure that we do it for the next math test as well. Okay? Okay. So I will see you tomorrow. You can still chat when I turn off the computer. That's fine. I'm going to upload this blog to our blog. And then if you have any questions or if anybody missed it, you can tell them they can catch it there. Okay? And I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm going to end it now. Bye. I do want to end it.